Good evening, everybody. I call tonight's Bethany City Council meeting for Tuesday, November 19th, 2019 to order. Would you please rise for the invocation and the flag salute? Mr. Herron, will you lead us in prayer? Mr. Hunter, will you lead us in the flag salute, please?
Heavenly Father, I just thank you, Lord, for your protecting arms around this city, Lord. I just pray you just continue to bless our great city. I just pray that you have given us wisdom, Lord, that we would use that wisdom amongst this work this night to make the city as pleasing to you and for our citizens. Attention, salute, pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Before we get started this evening, I know Mr. Powell is in the back here, and I spoke to him yesterday on the phone after we got his certification for his the election, and he wished to get sworn in at the next council meeting, so his family had time to be here for that. So we are granting his wishes. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 2 is a report from the Bethany Economic Development Authority, also known as BETA, and possible action to direct the city manager to send letters to certain residential property owners along commercial corridors on Rockwell Avenue and Council Road to be allowed to rezone their properties to commercial general with waived city fees. And I believe Mr. Gilbert Carlson is giving us the report.
Typically, Dr. Privet, our chairman, would be making this presentation, but tonight he's wearing a different hat. He is playing Colonel Privet with the National Guard in Washington, D.C. We thank him for his services. We were asked to give you a little update on what BETA has been doing this year. I'll try to keep it brief. Probably the three main areas that we've been involved in include the property. Most of you are aware that we purchased the Mercer property on Council, and we took that property, rezoned it from an archaic, unusable capacity to commercial retail, and we have sold that to Salazar of Salazar Roofing, who proposes to put in 2 buildings for retail and commercial activities on that property. The property was purchased for $250,000, was sold for $265,000. We have also entered into a bidding contest on the blonde brick building south of the funeral home in downtown. We were unsuccessful in bidding on that. We keep our eyes open for any activity where we think that we can provide a better opportunity for the use and development of the property. As far as personnel, we had last year used a college student from SNU as an intern. This year, the Community Development Department has recruited applicants for interns in the graduate school in planning and zoning, community development. And 2 applicants showed up that were so well qualified and impressed the interviewers to the point that both were hired. Beta pays for one, the city pays for the other. They bring a fresh perspective, and from all reports are being a real asset to the city. We have a grant program ongoing, Bethany Improvement Grants. We have a sign prepared now for those locations where the money is being used. We have provided $10,000 in 2 $5,000 grants for the Bill Merritt rehab, that $700,000 project. The facade improvement and landscaping were 2 $5,000 ones. We provided $1,500 to the Bethany Improvement Foundation to help them as they expanded their Route 66 festival. We have set aside $2,000 for a possible audio support of the mural systems within the city. We recently approved $1,125 to Hardware Incorporated on 39th Expressway as they worked on their facade improvement. And by the way, that's an aviation company, not a regular hardware company, but they collect sales tax in a significant manner. We recently approved the second installment of $1,500 to Vision 23 for the 5K race. And I'm happy to say that $1,000 of the proceeds from that race are going to the Western Oaks PTA group. They use the money to provide a Thanksgiving dinner for their students, families, and anyone else in the neighborhood who cares to go and take it. They have been doing that out of their own pockets from their staff for a number of years, so we think this is a really good return of the money. The second phase of your thing this evening is having to do with a rerun of an old program.
So I'm here to kind of help Gilbert this evening from a comprehensive plan standpoint and what our comprehensive plan says and how that feeds into what BETA is hoping that we can do. So a little bit of historical context. In 1926, Route 66 was established and the 39th Expressway played a critical role in the early growth of Bethany. And then in 1972, which was our newest comprehensive plan prior to the 2030 comprehensive plan, they had a good effort for a coordinated growth with that plan. However, because of independent public and private decisions, kind of led to a haphazard development pattern at that time. Okay.
Go on to the next slide.
It won't go to the next slide. Okay, we'll just keep going. So you should have a copy of the 1972 comprehensive plan in front of you. So that was the growth and what the city looked like at that time in 1972.
If you will, we're sorry we have some technical difficulty here in getting it up on the screen, but the map you see there shows that the commercial development was in truly an east-west boundary on 23rd Street and on 39th Expressway. When we had MIG here as our coordinators on the Comprehensive Plan 2030, we discussed that, and they explained that at the time this map was drawn, Oklahoma City was expanding rapidly, Bethany was growing, the growth was going out in a radius from downtown, and the traffic centers were primarily on the east-west streets in this area. And you'll see nearly all of the concentration is on the streets that are east-west. Had that at that time, you had the white flight from schools that were coming, so you had people coming out this way. You also had the occasion of having exceptional job opportunities with Gulfstream Aviation up on the north and the telephone construction down on the south end.
So just some regional context and setting. I think we're all aware, but just in case for anybody watching or doesn't, Bethany is landlocked and is 5.2 square miles. We're surrounded on 4 sides, which means that we really have no opportunity at this point for outward expansion. We're not going to annex any land or move outwards. According to our comprehensive plan, Bethany is approaching what we call full build-out, which means that any significant future development is going to need to be achieved by infill or redevelopment.
Can you get the next one to come up?
I can.
Hey, talent, the magic finger. After 1996-97, we had the opportunity for Mercy Doctor's Office to come into Bethany at 27th and Rockwell. Since that was property that we sold, I was involved in that and went through a process that took about 120 days to go from having the property zoned as residential to commercial office. The Bethany Development Authority at that time, which was the equivalency of BETA now, developed a program with community development where property owners up and down Rockwell that had property that had potential to be commercial were invited to turn their property from residential to commercial at the expense of the city. If there were residences on the property, they were advised that their property would become a legal non-conforming use, meaning that they could continue to use it in a residential capacity, but there were certain restrictions. If the property were being damaged by fire or tornado or whatever, to an amount in excess of 50%, it could not be rebuilt as residential. Also, if they wanted to expand, they could not expand it more than 50%. The plus would be that the value of the property is typically greater for commercial use than it is for residential. We had about 20% of the people contacted came in for additional information, and possibly 15% of the people then went ahead and had the property rezoned. One that's most visible to us now is the property at 30th and Rockwell, where we now have the new Dollar General. That was Family Video. That was part of the Stinchcomb Markwell property. They rezoned it. They were pleased to do so because it gave them the opportunity to use that property to its highest and best use. It brought probably 3 or 4 times what it would have done as residential. And being at the intersection of 2 busy streets, it was not particularly desirable for most residential.
So kind of the future as our comprehensive plan calls for it. The comprehensive plan has a strategy map that kind of shows what the strategy is going forward for us to look at as far as zoning and residential and commercial. That strategy map, which I also believe is in front of you, calls for most of the portions of Council and Rockwell to be developed into a commercial or mixed-use development in the future. This will expand commercial space capacity, and it'll allow for entrepreneurial startups, regional retailers, and other neighborhood serving retail stores. But most importantly, I think for the city of Bethany, from the city's perspective, available commercial space means potential sales tax dollars.
Can we back up to the previous one for
We
just a moment?
can.
Okay. If you will look at this one, you will notice that in our existing land use, there is more of the colored area on Rockwell that is now commercial than there is on Council. And that's sort of counterintuitive in that council has no north-south restrictions. The traffic count is typically heavier on Rockwell than it is on council, but I think that tells you that the efforts 20 years ago to voluntarily rezone the properties has paid off. I think that that is pretty much a given, that this is the type of thing. There's no obligation on the part of the property owner to go forward with it if they make an inquiry. The city spends probably $700 to $1,000 on this process on each application. It doubles or triples sometimes the value of the property to the public. And more importantly, from the standpoint of a developer, it removes the obstacles that you have when you're looking at a piece of property, wondering whether you're going to get that zoning or not. It also moves it to probably 60 to 90 days along the path. It removes an obstacle that stands between the property being fallow or being productive for both utilities and for sales tax purposes.
So next steps, or finally, Gilbert has pretty much, I think, got you up to speed on what we're thinking, but BETA believes that to be proactive, we should reach out to residential property owners along Rockwell and Council and ask if there would be an interest in rezoning their properties commercial at this time. Like Gilbert had alluded to, the homeowners will still be allowed to live at their property under our current ordinance. Staff would handle sending out the letters. Staff would meet with individuals who had questions or wanted to learn more. And then BETA requests that any of these rezones that happen would be done at no charge to the citizen or the homeowner, because this is a tool for economic development that we're trying to do.
Any questions or?
I have a
thoughts?
question. Is this letter, is it open-ended? Is there a drop-dead date? Is there?
Previously,
Timeline.
we offered it with a 90-day run, if I remember correctly. That's been 20 years ago. But there was either 90 or 120 days, something like that, KP, that they had in which to respond. We had at least one that I recall that after the fact asked that their property be considered, and we did it on a case-by-case basis.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
my question is, how many properties are we talking about, and what would be the total expense to the city to get to that point, do you know?
Well, we have interns that are very capable in this field, and I would suggest that if you look at council, there are certain sections that you would automatically exclude as you pass say the cube on council. On the west side, you have property that's already fully developed as residential, so you wouldn't be sending it to those property owners. But from the cube almost all the way up to 39th or 36th Street at least, that area is largely underdeveloped. There are not many substantial residences, and there are some significant larger tracts of property. As you get close to 36th Street and the dental office on the west side, if you come back to the south, there's a very nice rehab of a house, and then there are 2 or 3 blocks there that have very little activity on them. The area that would be problematic, of course, is the area north of 39th Expressway on the east side, because that's part of the property controlled by Oklahoma City and the Airport Trust. The properties on the west side there might be subject. As far as a cost, it would be probably $1,000 per applicant. So if you sent out 40 and you got 6 back, you'd be looking at $6,000. It's the potential. The biggest headache you run into, in my experience with undeveloped property, is the unknown. Your builder wants something that is shovel-ready. They want all the obstacles removed. They want the zoning, they want the utilities, they want the confidence that when they're ready to go, they can go. I would give you two examples in my personal history. One is Aldi's, the other one is Advance Auto. Both of them wanted to be on numbered streets. They approached our property. We didn't have utilities in place. We couldn't help them, so we lost them. That's a deficiency we don't need to repeat.
Thank you. I totally agree.
Do I have a motion to direct the city manager to send letters to certain residential property owners along commercial corridors on Rockwell Avenue and Council Road to be allowed to rezone their properties to commercial general?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved?
And Gilbert, I would appreciate if we could possibly look into having BETA do a quarterly report to the council.
Mayor,
Yes,
if I may make a comment on that,
on,
on what we just discussed.
okay.
We may look into, when we're sitting down and talking about our 30-30 plan, what is our utilities on Rockwell and Council? Are our utilities in place for when these get converted to commercial, if they do? For example, we're lacking sewer at 36 in Rockwell area. So that may be something, because that's going to be a big hindrance also.
Yeah.
So that may be something in our 30-by-30 plan is what can the city do to start preparing these properties for the commercial to go in so they're closer to being ready.
I agree.
That's all. Thank you.
Item 3 is a public hearing item. Consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 1576, a resolution amending the comprehensive land use plan of the city of Bethany by designating certain properties at 7004, 7006, 7008, 7010, 7012 Northwest 63rd Street from commercial office to commercial general. We have a report or? Sorry? Go ahead.
I do have a report, and then we have the representative for the applicant here this evening as well for questions. So this is for a rezone from commercial office to commercial general. The surrounding zoning of this property is both residential and industrial. Before someone asks, the cemetery is across the street, but our cemetery is zoned residential, which is another project I am currently working on. So, our cemetery is zoned residential.
That makes sense.
The total lot area of this lot is 1.66 acres. Current build lines is a 25-foot front, setback 5 foot on the sides and 10-foot rear. The existing structure is commercial office buildings, and the proposed structure is the building is to remain the same, but they want to be able to use it for commercial general. This application seeks an amendment to the comprehensive plan, modifying the property designation. The applicant plans to develop this property for commercial and office use. The applicant has submitted several statements of justification for this rezone, and I will go through those with you. The conditions of this area have changed. The uses allowed under the requested designation are needed in this particular area, and adequate infrastructure exists, and the requested amendment would support the goals of the comprehensive plan. The established designation as is inadequate to support economic prosperity. The building in its current use right now is at a low occupancy rate of 37%, which is a problem for the applicant. The property's historical low occupancy rate shows that an allowance for other commercial activity is needed, and that the zoning change would allow for an increase in sales tax revenue for the city. Other applicant statements of justification: the location of the office park is more appropriate for general commercial activity due to its proximity to other commercial activity, and allowing additional commercial activity would better serve the surrounding area and complement the existing commercial activity to boost sales tax revenue. Due to other commercial activity already in the area, there's adequate traffic infrastructure to support this rezone. Our comprehensive plan aims to increase capacity for additional retail in different formats and varying scales. As identified in the comprehensive plan, the city suffers from a lack of capacity for commercial activity, and our comprehensive plan encourages reinvestment to develop new commercial spaces. And with this change, the applicant would be better able to serve the tenants and would also provide additional commercial space to generate additional sales tax revenue. An aerial view of the property from seen above. And there's a shot of the outside of the buildings. And this is the zoning map that shows you the blue square is the property we're talking about. The yellow is residential, and the purple is industrial. And that's all I have from staff. I can tell you that planning and zoning unanimously voted for this project to go forward and recommends that council approve this rezone.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one question for Amanda. Was there any opposition?
We did not have any phone calls, and no one showed up for our public hearing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Do we have somebody that, with this?
Sure. Mason Schwartz, 522 Colcord Drive, on behalf of the applicant. If every city council that we appeared before had staff reports like that, I would probably be out of a job. But lo and behold, I am here, so I'll just add a couple things without revisiting everything. As she mentioned, really what this comes down to is our client bought the property, and as you can imagine, there is an oversaturation, as some of you know, in the metro area of office uses. That's materialized itself for this property at a 37% occupancy rate. And so what our client seeks to do is not to tear it down and start over or do anything incompatible with the rest of that stretch of 63rd there east of Rockwell, but instead seeks to change the zoning to allow himself to add retail components to the bottom floors while keeping a certain amount of office space, keeping the buildings that are already there, perhaps making improvements, beautifications to the buildings, and certainly sees as an opportunity to kind of revitalize that property with a mixed-use project that has the ability to bring in sales tax, unlike the office component. And so we would be happy to answer any questions and certainly ask for your approval.
Sounds like mixed use to me, like our comprehensive plan calls for us to start doing. Anybody have any questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved?
Thank you.
Thank you. Item 4 is a public hearing item, consideration and possible adoption of resolution number 1574, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, approving the increase of solid waste rates. I will say that this was tabled at a previous meeting specifically to tonight's date, which is why it ended up on tonight's agenda. This has been a long journey that we are on in regards to this to try to address several issues. But I know one of the things that that we have not gotten yet that was requested, I believe, from Councilmember Herron was some form of a 10-year equipment replacement plan. And where are we on that?
Mr. Mayor, we're still in the process of completing that report. We're looking at the 10-year replacement vehicle plan for solid waste as well. We're looking at the replacement of trash receptacles and determining how that will be impacted by these amounts.
Does anybody have any questions, or as a public hearing item, is there anybody here that wishes to speak on this?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
Question, Mr. Brown, you're saying we need some more time to study this?
If the council desires to have that information before they make a decision on a rate increase, I would need more time to do that.
Thank you.
Crystal Davis, Ward 4. First off, I want to thank you for making this a public hearing item. And I'm in support of this, so I thought y'all might want to hear I'm not opposed to something for once. As a member of the LEAF Task Force, I wanted to express my support for this. There are aspects I am concerned about that I also wanted to mention as well. With my limited time, I can't recap specific details we learned on the task force, but a few things I wanted to highlight. The first was with raising fuel costs and tipping fees at the landfill. It's just become increasingly more difficult to make ends meet for solid waste. And with the fact that we haven't seen a rate increase in years. I know that initially the increase will be a gut punch to a lot of residents, which is why I really want to encourage the council to build into this plan, and I don't know if it is built into this plan, to review the rates on a set time schedule so we don't fall behind again. And we'll find ourselves in the future either overcharging or undercharging residents. So we just need to make sure that, if that's annually, biannually, that we're taking time to evaluate those rate increases. Also, I'm encouraged to see that there is a set amount that is going to be set aside for the vehicles. That's something that came up during our task force, that I believe it's 7 years is the lifespan on the vehicles. And our vehicles are far expanding that, and just the maintenance cost alone is a major burden to the department. Now, for the concern that I have, I noticed that this plan sets the second can at $5 and the third at $7.50. We were told on the task force that's roughly $5 per can for the tipping fee, the fuel, and et cetera. City employees indicated to us that households with just the second can rarely fill that can, and often, some weeks they don't even put it out. But in the event that the third can was put out, that second can was usually always full. And so the current rate is $2.50 for the second can and $7.50 for the third can, which makes up that $10 cost that we were told. I just have concerns that by setting that second can at $5 and the third can at the $7.50, it just feels kind of like you're nickeling and diming the citizens at that point, trying to squeeze that extra $2.50 out of them. So, one thing I would like to see with this plan is either $5 for the second and third can, or it remain the same as it currently is. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else? I know we have a couple gentlemen from the Public Works Department sitting with us tonight. Is there anything you wanted to add in regards to this item?
Mr. Mayor, we are just here to shag any pop flies that the council might have, but in regards to what Mr. Brown said, as far as the 8 to 10-year plan, we are working on that. I did go over with the sanitation supervisor today, a series of about 50 photographs we've taken of all the sanitation trucks and detailing what's wrong with them, needs to be repaired, some things need to be replaced, and we're going to be assigning dollar amounts to that. We're gathering quotes, so that's where we're at on the delay, but we'll get that to you as soon as we can.
Do you have a guesstimate as to when you guys may be ready to present that?
I believe we could have that by next council meeting.
Can I ask
Mr.
a
Mayor, I
question,
have a
please?
question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. The age on the trucks, do you know about how old they are?
The age range, early 2000s to 2017.
2000.
About 2003 to 2017.
And expected life expectancy?
That's kind of a grab on, what type of routes each truck's running and the abuse they take. I would say, I heard 8 years. I would say it's fair. I'd say 5 to 8 years when you want to have a resaleable value for the truck and get that offline and get something new in its place.
Now, this may be a stupid question, but I don't always think real smart.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm assuming that we do have a regular maintenance program on every one of them.
We have, to be honest with you, we have ramped that up in recent months. We are putting systems in place where I'm requiring a weekly staff report on each unit, and that is hard copy that we can lay out and compare to see how long those units have been, wherever we have farmed out the work to, or how long they've been on deck with our fleet maintenance. Wednesdays are historically our in-house maintenance on the trucks. I have tasked Ray with ramping that up to be sure that we're getting all the preventative maintenance lubrication points taken care of, and so we're doing better at that, and we'll continue to do better.
And I want to thank you for doing that.
You betcha.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
I had one question, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
So if we do the study, then we'll have an estimated cost for the repairs, and that would be a number that we could compare to the rate hikes. Is that why we're doing the study?
That is a good question. I am believing we are doing the study just to get a handle on how much funding we'll need to bring the current fleet back up to snuff, and also to have an idea of when we need to budget either total amounts for new Packer and chassis sanitation trucks, or look into budgeting the payments to purchase those needed vehicles. That's where I'm at on it now. As far as how it relates to the utility hikes, I would have to consult.
If I may add, the study was actually separate from this particular item because we wanted to know, and we're doing this, we're going to be doing this across all departments, is looking out at 10-year 5 and 10-year plans both. But this is real important to us on the equipment cost and replacement because of the costs involved in it. So we started this study where it wasn't tied to this item, but it obviously has something to do with it.
Are there any other questions?
Yes, Mayor. A couple things. What would be helpful, if it's possible, if we could break down repair cost per unit for the life of the unit? That may or may not be possible. If you can pull up the unit number and how much we've done in repairs. Granted, I mean, greasing and whatnot done in-house may not be a part of that, but if we could pull up major repairs so we know what a 15-year-old truck is costing us. And then second, I would like to know, is there other things in the sanitation department that we are lacking or we need to increase efficiency or to make it safer for the employees?
Do you have any input
In
to that,
general,
Ray?
in any aspect of the sanitation.
I-
Just a lot of consist on what we're putting into the trucks, trash wise. There are some businesses that we pick up that throw away a lot of hard materials that do,
Can you put
the microphone,
Thank you.
There, we got some businesses where we pick up a lot of bulk waste, which is really hard on the trucks. It's major lumber, concrete, building materials, and that kind of stuff really is wear and tear on the trucks. And that's where the cost of some of the repairs is major. When you have the back end split open or the panel breaks, you know, you're looking at thousands of dollars compared to, you know, somebody who's got 2 or 3 dumpsters paying a couple $100 a month, and over a year pays maybe $3,600 a year for trash service, and then something they're putting in their trash waste stream costs, you know, $5,500 for repair. You're losing money that way. So, you know, if we could change some of that, that would help. You know, we got several businesses here in town that do throw away bulk waste in our dumpsters and has been for years, and it's just not been looked into or handled, you know.
Is that addressing what the customer's getting rid of and throwing away, or
Yes.
the city purchasing a different piece of equipment that can handle that type of?
No, right now, most of our fleet, other than our 2 oldest ones, are the heavy-duty Packers. You're not gonna get anything really bulkier than that. So, you know, but they can still be damaged by some of the materials we're picking up.
I think there that has to be
The mic, please.
I think that has to be a multi-tiered solution, because what Ray's alluding to is we do have items from some of these merchants that shouldn't be put in a Packer. So at a base level, you want your tail gunners, the guys in the back of the truck, to be aware to look out for that. Along those lines, we want to provide the service. So if we're going to provide the service, then we need to find a solution on how to provide that service. Putting those type of items into our current Packers is not the solution, because we are bending and tearing metal doing that. So that would be something that staff would have to do a roundtable on, and saying, you know, exactly what type of services do we want to offer in-house to our customers, and then figure out a game plan and dollar value to do that.
Absolutely.
Mr. Mayor, and a caveat to that, have we considered expanding our services to roll-off boxes?
That has been talked about, and that's a pretty expensive service also.
You know, we currently have roll-off services coming into the city that
Correct.
technically violate our ordinance.
Yep.
So it's something to consider. Is that a profitable business for us, or is that biting off more than we want to chew, I guess?
There has been some discussion on it, but it would need to be fleshed out to get those details.
Is that possible, Mr. Brown, in the next couple of weeks to maybe find out, is that a feasible, at least down the road somewhere, plan to look at?
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll take a look at it and discuss that.
Thank you. And along those lines, just while I'm thinking about it, when we have policies that people are ignoring, is that just turning a blind eye, or what's the reasoning for that? Can anybody tell me that when we have an ordinance that says you're not supposed to haul trash across the Bethany streets, but we have an outsourced company that does so? I mean, what do we need to do there?
We're working, Hank Morris, Economic Development, working with the city attorney to come up with a franchise agreement, or basically an enterprise franchise that we can charge the haulers that are coming in and using city streets to haul trash in and out, that we would charge a fee to them, whether it's percent, like an 8.5% type of sales tax on that, to compensate the city. The city wouldn't have to buy roll-off containers, roll-off trucks, and extra manpower, but it would begin tracking how much volume of trash is being hauled out. And in a 3 or 5 year period, we could evaluate whether we need to have front-load dumpsters, or if we want to go into the construction and open top type of containers. But on the short term, I think once we pass the ordinance that gives us the legal right to do a franchise agreement on outside haulers, we can do that and with the kitchen grease types of contractors who are hauling the debris out of the city limits.
Thank you.
I have a question in relation to that. We have an ordinance that says that the private hauling for our trash or sanitation is prohibited. So if that's the case, do we have another ordinance that says these contractors can come in for whatever purpose, our purpose or private?
I think there's a gray area in the ordinances that allow for things that the city can't handle, like we can't handle medical waste.
Well, that's provided in that ordinance.
Huh?
If we can't handle it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's provided for in that ordinance. But my question is that ordinance not being adhered to? Are we allowing contractors to come in here and haul off a house that's being remodeled?
I believe-
does that fall
yes,
into
I
that?
do believe-
I don't know if that's your question, and if it
Yes.
is, that's a pretty broad task to take on, and we should. I think.
It's definitely a revenue leakage that we're not tapping into, and that we have the legal rights for, and so we have been doing that.
Okay.
Where we are handicapped is that we don't have front-load dumpsters, the big 4, 6, 8 yard dumpsters, that we're not equipped for that. But like SNU, they want compactor, and Brahms wants compactors, and we can't provide that. So this is an alternative way to tap into the revenue without investing in all the extra equipment and get
And then
everything legal.
In addressing the leaf issues, and I don't know if you've talked to the county commissioner's office, but at one point they had a program where we could partner with them, and there's some pros and cons to that and some hiccups in it, but it can be made to work if it's still available. And that might help a little bit with our cost on the leaf and evaluating the bottom line when we get to it. We need to look at all of those options.
We have spoken with them, but I know that
Well, the laws, they've made some changes, so
Right.
I'm not sure that it's still available, but we have partnered with them before. And I remember one year, I think it was after an ice storm, they did some chipping of some things where we were worried about, we were only gonna have to pay for the cost of the dump. And they were able to chip all of it and at no cost, so we didn't have any cost. So those kinds of things are avenues that we should be looking into if we can.
in regards to this, I mean, this topic that we've been on with the 10-year equipment replacement plan, when we're looking at needing to increase the cost of the solid waste rates and have this plan in place, wouldn't that be something wise that we also do with police and fire in regards to vehicles that are purchased, and have some kind of understanding of what the plan is, so we can know what's going on?
Yeah, I believe it would be. We've also talked about the overall look at our fleet and the replacement of it, and we're actually in the process of performing an entire fleet study at this point.
Do I have a motion on this particular item?
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we table this till the next, at least till the next, I don't know, do we have to put a date on this? Can we table this and let the city manager and his staff do some more investigation? I would also ask that they look into some lease options, lease purchase options, and some other alternatives rather than purchase. And you're exactly right. Fire trucks need to be replaced on a regular basis. Try to keep them for 22 years. We've put a lot of money in them. Same thing with police cars. So my motion would be that we table it until the city manager and his staff have an opportunity to come back and provide us with a viable alternatives or a different alternative to our problems.
Can we table this
Yes.
indefinitely until
Yes.
staff is ready?
Yes, tabling is indefinite.
Okay. Because I know
Mr.
the
Mayor.
last one was specific, but yes, sir.
I just have a question of, regardless of whether they're bought or leased, we're gonna need funding to do that. Staff has provided numbers and comparisons. We had a citizen task force that thoroughly researched this, and regardless of what was not done the last 11 years, we don't have control over, but seems to continue to put this off, regardless of whether they're leased or purchased, is not necessarily a reason to not move ahead. So just would submit that as we continue.
I do have a motion to table until staff is ready with,
I second.
please cast your votes.
Westmoreland, yes. Palmer, no. Goodwin, no. Sandoval, yes. Knapp, yes. Heron, yes. Hunter, yes. And Larson, yes.
That being tabled, item 5 would be tabled as well, correct? Am I correct in that?
I'd make a motion, ask for a motion to table that as well. They are connected.
Do I have a
They're
motion to
separate.
table item 5?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Westmoreland, yes. Palmer, no. Goodwin, no. Sandoval, yes. Knapp, yes. Heron, yes. Hunter, yes. Larson, yes.
Item 6 is consideration of possible adoption of resolution number 1575, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Bethany, Oklahoma, establishing goals and objectives for the City Council of the City of Bethany, establishing a review process and outlining future planning opportunities for the city. Do I have any questions or motion?
I had some questions.
Yes, ma'am.
My first question was if the timing for the finance was enough to be able to provide the first draft of the budget, and if that's
If the timing of the first draft of the budget
Yes,
being March 1st,
it's March 1st,
yeah,
yeah.
Actually,
Is that
first week of
sufficient?
first week of March.
Is that sufficient for the staff to provide that? And will you have the option to do it sooner if you need to?
Yes, I believe that'd be sufficient. I believe that would also be in accordance with the current ordinance on providing that budget as well. I think that'd give us time to work back and forth.
Okay, then my other one is on item number 2B. I have some concerns about, I know that OMAG has done a tremendous amount of, and provides a tremendous amount of training for us, but there are other options. And I'm wondering if this particular item could read, instead of a resolution to continue OMAG, a resolution that we may continue to OMAG so that we don't shut down any other opportunities that we have.
Would doing that, I mean, are we still shutting out any other opportunities? Could we not pursue other opportunities? This isn't, that OMAG is not like exclusive.
If it's all right if I speak. Yes, this doesn't say you have to use OMAG for training. It only says that if you use OMAG for training and they pay you a stipend, which they do because it's in their best interest to do so, that you use that for Bethany Freedom Festival. You can use any training group you want.
We're not locked into
No,
them.
no, I don't think so. I think they're very good, but you're not
Okay.
married
I think
to
the
them.
reason for doing that was to, the citizens, want the Freedom Festival back, and obviously we're looking at every area we can to stop the financial leakage and try to move the city forward. And this is a way that we, sitting on this horseshoe, can, one, get training, which is good for all of us, and two, use that they're giving us as the seed money that goes to bringing the Freedom Festival back to the citizens. I think that's what that was really all about.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
can we get an explanation as to the administrative decisions? How would that play out? Is that, this is advisory, or is it's preliminary to the extent that we don't have a system in place, but that's why we have this? Is that fair?
If I can add, I would just add that I don't believe, I believe that this is our goal and objective that we want to reach as the staff, between the staff and the council. As far as, I don't believe it will change. I believe you would change anything that we do, administratively by ordinance and by resolution, such as if you granted the authority for the staff to authorize fireworks, for example. It might come into play there, but I think this is just saying that our goal is for staff to do administrative things as they've always done, and for the council to mainly do policy things and work together in that manner. Does that answer your question?
A little bit, if I can follow up. But
Okay.
that's all going to be defined at some point in time as we work through this communication process, right?
That is correct. This resolution also calls for us to develop a communication plan, and that will be an integral part of this entire thing.
Well, my concern is if there is some administrative issue, that there'd be some input requested from council related to whatever that issue is. I don't think we know what that is at this point, but if this is a guideline, I think that'd be helpful. And I also think I'm looking forward to a system of communication where we know where everybody is going and what they're doing, so that we can get some momentum as a team, as a council team, to allow, better information, and then we understand the decision-making process, and I think that helps everybody. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
May I say something? It's minor, but on 6B, and it has a typographical error. It says civil defense, and it should say emergency management. As we've discussed previously, civil defense is something people under the age of 40 don't even know what that means. But, so emergency management is a more proper term, and I will change that unless somebody on the council has a problem with that.
Are there any other questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 7 is proposed executive session to discuss pending claims between city and Shiloh Construction regarding library construction project. Do I have a motion to enter an executive session?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes. I'd also like to invite Mr. David Davis, our city manager and city attorney, as well as Mr. Powell, if he will join us for educational purposes.
And all approved the vote.
I made your copy.
Hey.
We are out of executive session, obviously. No action was taken. Item 8 is consideration and possible approval of change order number 14 with Shiloh Construction for curb work on west side of library. Amount of increase in contract amount is $2,464. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second? For the
Second.
last time, do you have a second? Okay. Please cast your votes.
Westmoreland, yes. Palmer, no. Goodwin, yes. Sandoval, yes. Knapp, yes. Heron, yes. Hunter, yes. Larson, yes.
Item 9 is consideration and possible approval of change order number 15 for Shiloh Construction for library construction contract, which reduces the total contract price by $22,500. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Westmoreland, yes. Palmer, no. Goodwin, yes. Sandoval, yes. Knapp, yes. Heron, yes. Hunter, yes. And Larson, yes.
Item 10 is consideration and possible approval of invoice for architectural services by Dewberry Architects for Bethany Library Construction Project in the amount of $4,085.91. Do I have a motion for approval?
Motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 11 is consideration and possible approval of payment application from Shiloh Construction for substantial completion payment in the amount of $388,290.90 and approval of settlement agreement between Shiloh and Bethany regarding claims. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
Westmoreland, yes. Palmer, no. Goodwin, yes. Sandoval, yes. Knapp, yes. Heron, yes. Hunter, yes. Larson, yes.
Item 12 is update, discussion, and possible action concerning the water contamination and water well efforts.
Did you want to provide the update on Thursday, or would you like for?
Oh, you can do it.
Okay. So, there's a special meeting that was set this afternoon, for Thursday at, I believe, 6:30.
Yes.
And there will be an executive, there'll be a motion for executive session or for that night to discuss, this a little bit further.
Item 13 is citizens' opportunity to address the council on general topics related to city business or services. There's a 3-minute limit. No action may be taken on matters under this item. Do we have anybody with us tonight that wants to address the council? Yes, sir.
Norval Whitehurst, 6600 Northwest 29th Street.
Could you pull the mic close to your mouth, please? Thank you so much.
First of all, I want to thank you for the lights in the park. They're all working. And second, how do you expect to get anybody in Bethany if they can't find Bethany? With a sign laying down on the ground since July. You've had workers out there mowing. Apparently they haven't said anything or done anything. So if you want somebody in, let's get the sign back up.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Yes, sir.
Dale German, Bethany, I guess so, Oak Ridge Drive. Next week is Thanksgiving, and I've written the City Council a letter of thanksgiving I'd like to read to you. I stand to speak for all the citizens of Bethany who appreciate our mayor, our city council members, city staff, and all volunteers who work in contributions making the city of Bethany one of the most desirable cities to live in within all of Oklahoma. Those who live here know the value of our community as a special place where good and decent people of many diversities live together peaceably with kindness and neighborly goodwill. We are blessed with selfless citizens willing to serve Bethany at City Hall and offices, departments, and organizations, both as paid staff and unpaid volunteers. It's easy to rejoice in celebration when we come together for the unveiling of spectacular city advances, such as we did at the opening of our newly beautified Bethany Cemetery, or as we did last Saturday at the opening of our new magnificent Bethany Library. It is also easy to live in enjoyment of our city and its amenities without thinking of all the work taking place in this city, in this building, and throughout the city of Bethany by people whom we do not know or see. At this chamber, in this very room, people come to you with their plans, petitions, preferences, possibilities, pains, pleadings, and platitudes, seeking your help for approval, your blessing. In all these things, you listen patiently, intently, and respectfully. After you listen, you consider carefully what to do. Then in your wisdom and best judgment, you vote for what you deem is best for the city of Bethany and her people. And as you vote, you graciously know, as Abraham Lincoln said, you cannot please all of the people all of the time. Next week, America sets aside Thursday as our National Day of Thanksgiving to God for America, our liberty, our freedom. And in this spirit of thanksgiving, it is fitting and necessary tonight for we, the people of Bethany, to stand together and say thank you to our mayor, our city council, our civic workers, our volunteers. You are appreciated, you are respected, you are valued by a grateful people whom you faithfully serve. When you go home tonight, tell your families you are treasured and loved by your neighbors and friends. Respectfully, we the people of Bethany.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. German, thank you for that. And whether you are reading something that kind or shaking a garbage bag, I want you to know that you are one of my most favorite people. So I really thank you for that. Item 14 is the city attorney's report.
Oh, I don't have one tonight, thank you.
15 is city manager's report.
I don't have anything further.
16 is mayor and council members' announcements, comments, and proposals. Would you like to start down here, Mrs. Larson?
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you to all the citizens for the opportunity to even serve here in this horseshoe. It's a tremendous opportunity. It's a tremendous responsibility. And I think I can say on behalf of all the council members that sometimes it is a little hair-pulling, but there are many joys and many satisfactions, and I am very appreciative of what you said tonight. Thank you. With that said, and like I said last council meeting, there's many out there that are going to have kind of a rough time this next couple of weeks. So reach out to somebody. Fortunately, we're going to have some surprise visitors at our home this year, and I'm always excited for that. Thank you, council members, for letting me serve with you, for putting up with me and my stupidity sometimes, and my opinions when they're not wanted. I appreciate it. And to staff, thank you. You all work hard. You're unsung heroes. You take a lot of flack from a lot of people, and you are appreciated whether you realize it or not. That's all I have tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. German. That was very nice of you. Very eloquent. Again, thank all the people that come out. You're always, it's a pleasure to see the house full. To staff, as usual, kudos to what you do on a daily basis. I overheard a conversation today that there was 2,700 people went through the library on Saturday.
Wow.
And I don't know what, you estimate 300 people there for the ribbon cutting, probably, maybe more.
Probably.
So great turnout. It's a beautiful facility. If you haven't seen it, you need to get over there and take a look. It's not just a library. It's it's just a phenomenal meeting place, and it's going to provide us some opportunities that we haven't had in the past. I would wish everybody a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we won't see you before that. So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. And as a former fire chief, is it okay if you exceed the fire code on a ribbon cutting grand opening? I was just curious about that. I mean, it's over with now, so I mean.
No, nobody got hurt, so it's okay.
Mr. Herron?
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mr. German, for those kind words. It was nice to read the Friday Tribune to see that the Bethany sales tax receipts for, I think, the month of September was up 24%. That was encouraging. Hopefully that continues to see uprises of that nature. So that's all. Thank you.
Mr. Knapp?
Yeah, I want to thank you for your letter as well. Even when you may not have disagreed with things, you always say it so nicely, and I appreciate that. I just want to remind people of two upcoming things, and then I have a little bit of thanks to give as well. This Friday, we have our Christmas tree lighting ceremony, Friday night, downtown on 39th Street. And then a week from Saturday is Small Business Saturday. That's the Saturday after Thanksgiving at the AT&T building, the old AT&T building on 23rd Street. I think it's the Handmade Market page, is that right? And also Santa Paws. So you can bring your pets and have a photo taken with Santa Claus. With this Thanksgiving, also get to celebrate my wife's birthday. She's probably not watching, but I'm going to say early happy birthday to her. But as Mrs. Larson said, please think of those who don't get a full Thanksgiving, our law enforcement, our first responders, those in the military, our healthcare workers, people who don't have enough to eat, people who don't have a home. So just keep them in your prayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Palmer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I also, too, would like to remind everybody about the Christmas tree lighting. That's at 7:30, and your Bethany Broncos are playing playoff football at 7:30 at the same time, so that's going to be a busy evening for me, but if you'd like to participate, I know that they would appreciate your support. We also have a Ward 2 Town Hall meeting coming up at 9 a.m. at the new library. I'm excited to see how the facilities work out, and it'll be in the new conference room that's available. And Mr. Chairman, thank you for those comments. I think you are the Bethany Poet Laureate. Can we say that maybe? That might be a good designation at some point, if you don't mind. And I'd also want to give some encouragement to the Freedom Festival Committee. I think that's a great event, and we are in the process of trying to put that back together. And Matt Goodwin, my co-counsel person in Ward 2, is in charge of that, so I'm encouraging him to work through that. I know he's going to do a great job with all of his connections and the support that he has from all of the residents and businesses here in Bethany. And one last thing, my wife's birthday is also coming up, so I'll admit, thank you for the reminder, Councilman Knapp. But that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Mr. Goodwin?
Echo many things that have been said already. Mr. German, I will admit, and I look forward to speaking to you later. I haven't got to talk much with you before. I did wonder if you were speaking about us halfway through. Just kidding. But thank you for the kind words, and thanks and for all those that participate. Just wanted to echo that on the holidays on 23rd Street and the Santa Paws. Also going to be some opportunities for preventative health for your pets, low cost from Bella SPCA. We'll be there doing microchipping, nail trims, and just little things that can save money on for people that need to get their pets taken care of. So that'll be a nice addition to that. Also would like to mention this Friday night at the tree lighting, it is going to be cold, so prepare for that. We're hoping the rain stays away. I'll be a small part of that, might even break out the guitar, so hopefully that won't keep you away too much.
Nice.
And then last thing is had an opportunity today at the library to meet with a gentleman who's one of the directors of the largest philanthropic foundations in the state, and he was incredibly impressed with the library, and I will be sharing that on some recordings and things he's doing in the upcoming days. So just so excited for that, to have a place to meet, to bring in people from outside of Bethany to do things, and so already this week seeing that in action from many other people as well. So thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Sandoval?
Nothing for tonight, thank you.
Thank you. I have a few things. First of all, I would also like to thank you, Knapp and Palmer, for reminding me my beautiful wife also has a birthday coming up. It's in March, but I just wanted to
Some things are
want
less-
to put that on the record right there. Also, Mr. German, I'd also like to thank you. I would like to ask if we could have a copy of his letter given to all the council. I will personally frame that and put that on my wall as a reminder. Sometimes that's needed, but it is an honor to serve the citizens of the greatest city on planet Earth, and so just so everyone knows, that is the truth. I want everyone to know that we have our budget meeting 2.0 coming up, and with us will be the Crawford and Associates. That is happening December 17th, so put that down. We'll be going into more info and details about the budget and how that happens and why it happens and all that kind of stuff. They are the experts, I would say, in municipal budget, and so they are the people who are involved and who you would have a great opportunity to ask questions and get some clarity on some things. Also want to let everybody just know that we have been invited on December 3rd, which will be our next council meeting as well, but the Lieutenant Governor is having a tourism state Route 66 working conference that day that he's invited us to participate in, so we're looking forward to being a part of that, about Route 66 and what all we have going on here. He's interested in it, as everybody knows, and we're excited to see what he has planned for the state as a whole. I'm also excited about the library grand opening. Had 5 awesome young people cut the ribbon to let us all in there for the first time. Those are the people we need to always keep in mind when we're making decisions. In my opinion, they're the future leaders of our city and our community, and 5 of them were standing there very proudly cutting the ribbon. I just thought that was awesome, and you know, that's goes to show just how great our staff is to put together that ribbon cutting and come up with ideas like that and different little things to be able to put that event on. I just want to brag on the staff and let them know that everybody that I'm hearing from are talking about how great that ribbon cutting and the library also, but just how that moment was for the few minutes that we spent there. And also, I'm also excited about the Freedom Festival and Matt and all the work that you and your crew is doing to bring that back, and thankful that the council has voted to do the OMAG training and put those funds that we receive as kind of the first seed money to ensure that happens. And just so everybody knows, Mr. Palmer announced the December 7th Ward 2 Bethany Neighborhood District Neighborhood, what is his name?
Town hall meeting.
Town hall meeting, but is it not a part of your neighborhood thing?
It is a Ward 2 meeting for everybody in Ward 2.
Okay, we have actually officially confiscated that meeting to make it our very first 30 by 30 citizen meeting. And I'm asking that the two council members make sure that they're there. I know some staff will be there, and we're asking for the Ward 2 citizens to show up, because this 30 by 30 is really just and that's just a working title. Who knows if that's what it's going to end up being called eventually. But it is simply a roadmap to try to help us come up with measurable steps to success to make this Comp 2030 a reality. Because if we don't put a game plan in place, we don't want to be the ones that wake up and it was just another $110,000 spent and a whole lot of citizen man hours, and it didn't do much than the one before did. So we want to make this a reality, and I think we're already taking great strides in that. But I would invite the Ward 2 citizens to come in and weigh in on what you want to see happen in Ward 2. What do you think we need to do in a year, 5 years, 10 years? What do we need to accomplish? And we need these things to be the target on the wall that we're shooting for, so that we can measure that success. And we will be having these meetings in all the wards, and council members and citizens, we want you to help us put this thing together, because it is our roadmap to success. And so I just had one thing that I hope doesn't, I don't want to make it sound negative, but we put up some bistro lights in the city hall lawn, and I believe, are they solar powered or solar, how does that work? I think it'd be really cool if those were on at night, you know? Okay, in my opinion, I just think, hey, you work so hard to get them up there, we need to show them off, in my opinion, so. And that's a positive thing. I don't want to end on a negative thing, just let there be light. Item 17 is new business. Do we have any new business?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I just think new business would be with the hijacking of that meeting that you provide breakfast that morning. So, thank you.
Route 66 donuts.
Awesome. Okay. Will you go with me so you can put that on your credit card? I will have to spend my entire mayor check to provide donuts for that meeting. I promise you that. With no real new business, item 18 is the one we all love to hear. I consider us adjourned until December 3rd, 2019. With that, I call to order the Bethany Public Works Authority. Item 1, consent docket, A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have a new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 3rd, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Hospital Trust. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 3rd, 2019. I call to order the Bethany Development Authority. Item 1 is consent docket A and B. Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Please cast your votes.
All approved.
Item 2 is new business. Do we have new business? With no new business, I declare us adjourned until December 3rd, 2019. And with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.